Tell me your story about your glory. Pattaya, 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 Pattaya.
Hallo allerseits, wo ihr mich auch seid. Ich bin heute an der Zukunft-Rot Richtung Norden mit meinem Automobil in Sachen Hotte Flink on Tour Tell Your Story. Und da er, man kann sagen, ein internationaler Star ist, wird der Rest dann auf Englisch sein. Aber ich denke, ihr werdet das verstehen. Bis gleich also. Lasst euch überraschen. So, hello. Now I am here at Bingo Beach. Bingo Beach. It's not a private beach. It's not a public beach. It's a private beach. It's a residence of a very famous, we can say, artist, well known in Pattaya, Doc Penguin.
Hello.
And he lives here.
Yes, this is my home.
Yeah, and he will be the guest today in my automobile. Will tell us a very interesting story. But before we do it, you tell me, how was the way from Morocco, where you were born, to Pattaya? Maybe a little bit short.
Okay, actually I'm a Tangerine. I was born in Tangier, and at that time, if you were born in Tangier, you were a Tangerine. Tangier was part of Morocco, became part of Morocco actually after the revolution. I was born just before that. And so my father was Tunisian, my mother was American. I grew up all over the world in Tangier, in Spain, in Paris, London, New York, Los Angeles, and after I graduated in Santa Cruz, California, UC Santa Cruz, I went on the road to Europe to do shows for 6 months, and that kind of turned into a lifetime, traveling everywhere across the overland to Asia, doing shows in villages, Afghanistan, to Sri Lanka, India, Nepal. Eventually came to Thailand, was invited over to do shows for a year, and had a lot of fun. It was great. So that, yeah, a lot of traveling.
And in that time, you're a great magician, we can say. And in that time you met another great magician, but magician and music.
That was a little bit later. Yeah, I was, I've done magic since I was little. My first show, I think, when I was 6 years old. I loved magic, but I also loved music. I got a musical education as well, St. Paul's Cathedral Choir School. And I was a soloist when I was a kid, and then I learned a lot of instruments, had my own bands, mixed magic and music and juggling, and created what I called the Magic Circus. So the Magic Circus has had many reincarnations all over the world. Lots of people have joined and left and come back, and so the Magic Circus people out there, they all know who they are. There's hundreds of them. And yes, I at one point was living in Singapore, and I got thrown out of Singapore. Well, I wasn't thrown out. I left before they could put me away for telling a joke that wasn't acceptable at the time. And that was in 1987, January 20th, if I remember right, 19th actually. And I ended up coming to Thailand, and then went from Thailand to Hong Kong. And in Hong Kong, I landed there with like $6, a wife and a kid, a bunch of tricks, and ready to do shows. I had friends there already. Next thing I knew, I was doing shows all over Hong Kong, and I was at a place called Duddles, and that's when I met, or actually was put together this whole thing with Michael Jackson first time.
So, and this story now you will tell us in the automobile.
Okay.
Come on. So, and now tell us the story how you have stolen Michael Jackson a show.
How I met Michael Jackson the first time. Let's see. Well, the year was 1987. I was working at a great place called Duddles. A very good friend was like the general manager there, Rick Mayo. It had very interesting owners. There were 8 of them. They're all like the movers and shakers of Hong Kong, including David Davies, Jens Monk, and other notoriety, very well-known people in Hong Kong, big business people. So they had met a woman, what was her name? I can't remember at the moment. She was Michael Jackson's the person who arranged basically all his travel.
Oh, okay.
I wouldn't say travel agent because she was more than
Manager.
that. Yeah, but that's what she did. Her name was Greta. Now I remember. I've been to her house. Okay, so Greta, I guess she came to Hong Kong, met all these people, they partied with her, and then she invited them to Japan, where Michael was on tour, and he was doing the Bad Tour back then. And so he was in Japan doing sold out shows, and I think all the owners flew over there to meet him. I didn't know anything about it at the time. I mean, Rick told me something, and I was like, yeah, okay. And so they went to meet Michael Jackson, and when they met him, they had a dinner and did a few things, and then they invited him to Hong Kong. And he had never been to Hong Kong, and so he said, okay, I'll come to Hong Kong, but there's one condition, and that is, if there's any press at the airport, I'm going to turn around and go back to Japan. Okay, and at that time Hong Kong had Kai Tak Airport, which was very close to the city, in part of the city, in fact. So nobody knew when he was coming. They just knew he was coming. I'd heard a couple things from Rick when I was very ambiguous. I didn't really care. I had work to do. I was doing shows every day. And one morning I went in to get a paycheck or something early, and it must have been like 9 a.m. And came into the office, and Rick was freaking out, going around, going, "Oh no, what am I going to do? What am I going to do?" I'm like, "Rick, chill out, man. What's going on?" And he said, "Michael Jackson's on the way." I said, "So what?" He goes, "You don't get it." He said, "If there's any press at the airport, he's going to turn around and go back to Japan." I said, "Okay." And he said, "Kai Tak is full of press. I don't know how they know, but they're all there. There's like hundreds of them." I went, "When's he coming?" He said, "Well, we should arrive in about an hour." I said, "Well, I'll take care of that." He said, "What are you going to do?" I said, "You wait and see." So I called Jenny. She was a singer, was working with us at Duddles. Beautiful black Canadian girl who had a fantastic voice, and tall, and she had a very, I would say, a bit of a male look to her in some respects. Anyway, I called her. She came running over to my apartment. We dressed her up as Michael Jackson, and I dressed up in my costume with a top hat and everything. And we took a subway and all kinds of ways to get to the airport in time. When we got to the airport, I had no idea where he was going to be landing, where to go. But for some reason, I just followed my instinct, and I found an elevator, and I said, "We'll take the elevator." And I pushed a button, and we went down. And literally, we came out at this section where I didn't even know existed, but was a private kind of place for cars, for pickup for VIPs. Yeah. It was packed with newspapers, people, TV cameras, all kinds of press. They were all there. And I look around, and I said, "Where's the goddamn limo?" And everybody looked at me, and I said, "Quick, Michael, run!" And we both ran, and we ran for the taxi, and they chased us all the way to the taxi, and we got in the taxi, and they were trying to pull her out, and I was fighting them off, saying, "Go away, like that." And they were throwing money to the driver. I mean, lots of money, thousands of Hong Kong dollars to the driver not to go, to stay. Yeah. And I called one policeman, right, comes over. He's like, mm-hmm. And I'm going, "Help, help." Then I finally said, "Listen, Michael's going to leave. He doesn't like this. If you want Michael to have something to say later," I said something like that to get them off. And we managed to drive away. And they chased us all the way into town to the Mandarin Hotel. I chose the Mandarin Hotel because it was in Central, and it was really close to Duddles where we worked. Plus, the Mandarin Hotel had many exits. I knew them all because that was my stomping ground. That's where I worked. I lived just around the corner. So I knew all the exits. We ran through the Mandarin being chased by all these press people. And I knew this way out, and we went over the road and went running down, and we came running back to Duddles. By then it was just around midday, 12 o'clock noon. Yeah. And we were both laughing, and we come to the bar, and Rick's there. He goes, "What's up?" And I said, "Man, it was hysterical. They chased us all the way." Well, meanwhile, the real Michael Jackson lands, and there's no press at the airport. He gets into his limousine and goes to the Hong Kong hotel where he was staying. So we're laughing, and the press, the newspapers came out, and that afternoon the newspapers had pictures, which I have copies of. I'll give you the copies. You can show them. I have copies of these. The Standard, the South China Post, all the Chinese papers had the front page, big color photographs of me and Jenny. And I'm like, and they said, "Michael Jackson arrives in Hong Kong and with his minder, da 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 da." And they didn't know my name or anything at the time. So there was like all this stuff, right? And we were laughing. We saw these newspapers coming out. And I had a friend at South China Post named Zelda Cawthorn. Great writer, wonderful lady. And she had done a really nice article for me, a couple of them actually, when I first came to Hong Kong. She helped me make it in Hong Kong. Yeah. So I thought I could return the favor. So I called her. I said, "Hey, Zelda, how you doing?" She goes, "Hey, Dr. Penguin, how are you?" I said, "I'm fine. Hey, have you had a chance to look at your newspaper today? Because they did 2 editions every day in the afternoon." And she says, "No." I said, "Take a look at the front page." She goes, "Oh my God, it's you!" I said, "Yeah, you with Michael?" I said, "No, that's not Michael, it's Jetty." She goes, "Oh, where are you?" I said, "I'm at Dulles. Can I come over with the team? Get an exclusive?" I said, "Sure." So they came running over and they did an exclusive article. Now, the following morning, and that got out, the following morning, the South China Post has this big article with Dr. Penguin, Dr. Penguin, Hong Kong's prankster, something like that, fools the press at Tai Kai Tak Airport. And there's a big picture of me smiling and Jenny, and the whole story was there. All the other newspapers had egg on their face, right? And the Standard, which is the other big English paper at that time, they got really angry. So they were like, "No, how is this possible?" So they wrote a nasty article saying, "Who's that Dr. Penguin and who cares anyway?" And then they wrote this thing saying that Michael Jackson was angry with me for doing this, right? Yeah. Now, the funny thing is, the night before, that night when all this happened, Michael came to the restaurant and we reserved the whole downstairs. It was actually a basement. Dulles used to be a bank and there was a vault down there and took them forever to get it out of there. But that whole vault area, it was like a private area for shows and for VIPs. We had a lot of VIPs in there. And so we had this, we bring Michael in and he comes in early, and I had arranged for him to get the Rolls Royce from Run Run Shaw, Sir Run Run Shaw, who's one of the Shaw brothers from Shaw Brothers movies. I had met him a few months earlier in LA. And funny enough, he was from Hong Kong, but I was in LA doing a show, and we met, became friends. And so I said, "It's okay, we borrow your Rolls Royce from Michael Jackson." "No problem, I send it now." So Michael's got this Rolls Royce, comes to Dulles, him and his entourage, they come in, and I set up a bunch of shows. Now, I had, at the time, we had a jazz duo. Vic Stefan, he had the Bottoms Up bar with his wife. He was a stand-up cello bass player, like a bass. And this wonderful Chinese pianist who was so super gay and beautiful, the way he talked and everything. And they were a great duo, but they didn't know anything about rock and roll or pop music. So I thought, well, maybe if I get a drummer. So I called this other friend of mine, Sam, a Sambai, who is from Jamaica, a Jamaican drummer, best drummer I've ever met in my life, by the way. And so you've got this Rastafarian Jamaican, this huge English guy, on the stand-up bass, and this really lovely gay, wonderful guy. What was his name? I think his name was Kenny, pianist, who I actually did a lot of routines with. We had a lot of very funny routines working together. So I said, "Guys, can you play some music while they're eating?" "Yeah, sure, we'll come up with something." So they're trying to mix. Now, this guy's reggae and pop and rock. These guys are jazz. They had to find a medium, and they were working on that. Meanwhile, I brought in, I called Jackie Chan's brother, and he sent over these acrobats, the Chinese kung fu guys. Michael was really into that. In fact, one of his bodyguards was the smallest one, was the karate champion of the world at the time, and I forgot his name, Marcel or something. And Chucky, the big guy with the top hat, and Bill Bray, his manager, who had been his manager, and I would say head of security since he was a kid. He was an ex-LA policeman, really lovely guy. Michael was always playing with his food and stuff. So we were having a dinner and everything. And the acrobats were fantastic. Michael signs all these t-shirts and gives them all albums and everything. And they were really jazzed out. Comes time for the band to play something, right? So Michael says, "Can they play something I can sing with them?" And I said, "Guys, can you play any song that Michael Jackson can do?" And they went, "We don't know any." And he went up there anyway and started trying to get them to do something like a classic jazz or something, and it didn't work. It was a disaster. He just kind of stopped singing and went, "Okay, back to the table." He just kind of left the mic. I was embarrassed by that, but it was okay. It was a great evening, and I came over and started doing close-up magic, and I ended up talking with Michael. He had me sit next to him, and we started talking about magic. It turned out he was a big magic fan. And then it turned out that he asked me because he liked the comedy that I was doing. And he said, "Where do you get your comedy ideas from?" I said, "Well, you know, I grew up on Three Stooges and the Marx Brothers." He said, "Oh, I love the Three Stooges." And he went on and on about Curly, right? And I said, "Well, actually, I thought Harpo was better." Oh, we had this argument, right? He starts arguing about the Three Stooges. I'm arguing about the Marx Brothers. Time goes by. We were there for a couple of hours, chatting, talking, having a great old time. I said, "What are you guys doing later? You know, like tomorrow?" And he said, "Well, I don't know. What should we do?" I said, "There's this great place called Ocean Park, you know, where they have a roller coaster." "A roller coaster! I'm buying a roller coaster. Can you take me there?" "Yeah, sure. We'll get you over there." So I thought, okay, it was a great night. And I promised I would teach him a couple tricks. And then they went home and everybody was taking pictures. I got photos of that too. And he went off to his hotel. Now, the funny thing was, the next day, when there were all these newspapers claiming I had nothing to do with Michael Jackson, out comes this pictures from Ocean World, with Ocean Park, and with me and Michael on the roller coaster with Bill Bray going around. And I called Zelda. She sent the team over there, and was great because a friend of ours, Chip Humphrey, who was a high diver, he had a show at the Ocean Park. So he got us like the best deal ever. We could go around and around on the roller coaster as many times as we wanted. We got VIP on everything, you know. And Chip was really cool, and he really did a great job with that. And so we became friends, and he stayed for at least 10 days. I ended up becoming his tour guide, showing him all around Hong Kong. And I also taught him a couple tricks, and he gave me some advice as well for show business and things. And we did a lot of funny things. He wanted to look at watches, and he bought some land in Africa. He spent, if I remember right, I think it was $9 million on land to be turned into a reserve for animals, to be free. And he did it anonymously. He wouldn't put his name on it. He just said, give the money for that. He did that in Hong Kong. So it made the papers every day. It was really funny. I was in the news all the time. And so Michael and I parted ways. We took a photo together. He took the photo. Actually, I didn't take any photo. I didn't even own a camera back then. But I have the photo. He sent it to me. And he also sent me all these books on the Three Stooges that he had published. He had paid for the publishing, and he also had helped supported some of the families from the Three Stooges, Moe's family, Curly's family, well, they were all family anyway, and with their descendants. And he always had next to him a picture of Curly on his dressing table and stuff. So he invited me at one point to LA and a couple places. I turned down most of the invitations, but I did go to LA. I went to visit Heal the World some years later. I took Father Giovanni from Bangkok with me, and some Swiss guy, I can't remember his name. He was kind of bogus, but Father Giovanni was great because he was starting the AIDS center in Bangkok. It was just when AIDS had come out, and we were looking for help for the AIDS center because people were really freaked out by AIDS. It was a new thing in Thailand, everywhere. And so we went to the Heal the World Foundation, and they said, nobody ever comes here. Like, you know, wow. They all taking pictures with us. "Oh, we heard about you from Michael. He said you could do a magic trick." I said, yeah, okay. I know which ones, because he particularly loved my card trick. And then sometime, I mean, we did things like we went to Toys R Us with him, toy shops, magic shops.
Okay, Doc.
Yeah, you know,
I'm sure
there's
you
much
can
more.
you can talk hours about all your meetings with the stars of the world. Thank you very much. It was very amazing. And maybe what I said before, maybe I have the chance to see you in a performance here in
sure.
Pattaya. I know you make many things for the kids.
Well,
Maybe
yeah,
that's
I'm
here.
still doing that always.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome, sir.
And a last view from Bingo Beach here. Wonderful view to the Gulf of Thailand. Bye bye, everybody.